Hello everyone, and welcome to RadioCSIRT English Edition, your daily appointment with cybersecurity news. I'm Mark Frederic Gomez, your French cybersecurity voice for today's threat landscape. It's Sunday, November 30th, 2025. You're listening to episode 35, live from Versailles, from France. Coming up in this episode, Cato CTRL exposes HashJack, a new indirect prompt injection vector that hides malicious payloads in URL fragments to blindside WAFs and hijack AI browsers. The BadBox Botnet infiltrates the retail supply chain, with Superbox Android devices shipping pre-routed to serve as residential exit nodes for IPidea. GeoServer faces active exploitation in the wild, triggering a critical alert for unauthenticated RCE across GIS infrastructure. Postfix patches a logic flaw allowing attackers to bypass SMTP security policies, forcing an immediate update to restore message filtering integrity. And the UK NCSC launches a new cyber action toolkit, turning SMB security guidance into a strategic supply chain enforcement tool. The Cato Control Research Team has released detailed findings on HashJack, a novel indirect prompt injection technique that effectively bypasses current perimeter security architectures. The attack vector specifically exploits the handling of URL fragments, the string of characters following the hash symbol number sign. According to RFC standards, browsers do not transmit the fragment to the web server. It remains purely client-side data. Consequently, web application firewalls, WAFs, intrusion detection systems, IDS, and server-side logs are completely blind to any payload contained within this segment. The vulnerability arises because AI-integrated browsers, such as Perplexity Comet, a Microsoft Copilot for Edge, and Google Gemini for Chrome, ingest the entire URL string fragment included into their large language model LLM context window to analyze the page. The operational impact is critical, particularly for agentic browsers like Comet, which can perform actions on behalf of the user. Researchers have validated zero-click data exfiltration scenarios. In these cases, the AI receives instructions via the invisible fragment to fetch a remote attacker-controlled URL, appending sensitive data found on the legitimate page, such as banking transaction histories or PII, as query parameters. Other verified vectors include contextual callback phishing, where the AI generates fraudulent support numbers, or malware guidance, offering authoritative instructions to install backdoors. It is crucial to note the divergent vendor responses. While Microsoft and Perplexity have implemented fixes or mitigations, Google has triaged this behavior as intended for Gemini, shifting responsibility to the user. For SOC teams, this implies that network-level detection is ineffective. Mitigation strategies must shift towards strict endpoint URL filtering and hardening browser extension policies via GPO or MDM. A joint investigation involving census analysts has formally identified Superbox-branded Android TV streaming devices as the physical infrastructure for the BadBox 2.0 botnet. These devices, readily available at major retailers like Walmart and Best Buy, are not merely compromised media players, but are engineered as attack vectors from the factory floor, a classic supply chain compromise. The infection mechanism relies on user coercion. To access the promised pirated content, users are instructed to disable Google Play Protect and sideload the Blue TV Store, an unverified third-party marketplace. Forensic analysis of the firmware reveals root-level compromise. Upon network connection, the boxes initiate command and control, C2, communications with Tencent QQ infrastructure, and deploy the Grass.io SDK. This component enrolls the device into a decentralized residential proxy network. Researchers uncovered native offensive binaries stored in second-stage directories, including TCP dump for packet capture and netcat for data exfiltration or reverse shells. Even more concerning for enterprise networks, ARP poisoning capabilities were observed, allowing the device to intercept local traffic or deny service to other endpoints. The economic driver is clear. Superboxes function as exit nodes for IPidea, the direct successor to the 911S5 proxy service, which was sanctioned by the US Treasury for facilitating billions in financial fraud. Any device identified by MAC address or DNS behavior pointing to these domains must be isolated and banned immediately, as they represent a persistent hardware backdoor on the local network. More information on Brian KrebsOnSecurity. A high priority alert has been issued for Geographic Information System (GIS) administrators. The vulnerability CVE 2025-58360 affecting GeoServer is currently confirmed to be under active exploitation in the wild. This flaw is classified as critical because it permits remote code execution (RCE) without prior authentication. The vulnerability resides in the request processing of underlying components, specifically GeoTools, versions prior to 34.1, and GeoWebCache, versions prior to 1.28.1. Effectively, all GeoServer instances prior to version 2.28.1 are vulnerable by default. GIS servers are high-value targets for threat actors as they are often publicly exposed, possess significant computational resources, and have access to sensitive databases or internal network segments for map retrieval. Successful compromise allows an attacker to seize full control of the server, implant web shells for persistence, and use the machine as a pivot point for lateral movement within the network. Given the existence of public exploits and observed threat activity, this patch cannot wait for the standard maintenance cycle. Upgrading to version 2.28.1 or higher must be treated as an emergency procedure. If immediate patching is operationally impossible, administrators must restrict network access to management interfaces and apply strict WAF rules to block known exploitation attempts, although patching remains the only permanent remediation. The French National CERT issued advisory AVI 1040 regarding a confirmed vulnerability in the postfix mail transfer agent. The identified risk is classified as a security policy bypass. From a technical standpoint, this vulnerability allows an entity to circumvent the restriction mechanisms configured on the SMTP service. Consequently, an attacker may successfully execute actions or transmit traffic that should theoretically be rejected by the server's active configuration, thereby rendering specific access controls or filtering rules defined by the administrator ineffective. The scope of affected systems includes the following branches: versions 3.10.x prior to 3.10.6, versions 3.9.x prior to 3.9.7, versions 3.8.x prior to 3.8.13, and all versions prior to 3.7.18. The remediation prescribed by the agency and the vendor involves the immediate application of patches released in the Security Bulletin dated November 25, 2025. Operations teams are advised to verify their production versions and proceed with a binary update to restore the correct enforcement of security policies. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, NCSC, has released the Cyber Action Toolkit, a framework specifically designed for organizations with fewer than 50 employees. While this announcement appears targeted at SMBs, it holds major strategic value for enterprise CISOs regarding third-party risk management, TPRM. The statistics are stark. 50% of small businesses suffer a cyber incident annually. These entities often represent the soft underbelly of the enterprise supply chain, serving as entry points for island-hopping attacks. This toolkit is not merely a list of tips, but a structured methodology paving the way for Cyber Essentials certification. It covers foundational domains, access management, secure configuration, malware protection, and patch management. For a GRC team, this document provides an actionable baseline standard, rather than imposing ISO 27001 requirements that are often unattainable for small vendors. Integrating the Cyber Action Toolkit requirements into master service agreements allows for a concrete elevation of ecosystem security. It is recommended to audit critical small vendors against this framework and condition contract renewals on the adoption of these digital hygiene measures, thereby mechanically reducing your extended attack surface. That's the end of this Sunday episode. I hope it provided clear and useful information. And if you are a new listener, feel free to subscribe to the RadioCSIRT podcast. We are available on Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube channel, Deezer, and Spotify. You can share your feedback by email at radiocsrt@gmail.com All open source intelligence sources used for this episode are available on RadioCSIRT.com website, as well as in the episode description. And don't forget, don't think, just patch, or see you tomorrow for a new episode. Bye.